So for good lime plaster we get the quicklime from Shapp quarry in Cumbria, about 300 years old, did the Houses of Parliament. It makes a quicklime 4:1 ratio to Cardewmires riverbed sand. It's 4:1. Slake it in there with a drill whisk. So you'd have a few of those, half 200 litre drums. Get it all slaked. Once it's slaked, you would then store it for as long as you like in airtight containers like these. So you got full control. Then try and get yourself a Refina RMR200 roller pan mixer. Then transfer your slaked powder into the machine. To crush it. You can see now the material it's quite powdery. It flows very well. It's not sticking very much. After about 15 minutes it will start to ball into a clay-like material. Here's some of the product. It's very sticky. It's difficult to plaster onto the wall. You need to use a midget trowel with high pressure, or hammer it on. Get yourself a pair of rubber gloves, hammer it on flat in about 1/2 inch layers. Just hammer it on the wall. So, see at the moment, it's starting to stick to the wheel. But after about 20 minutes it goes into a dense clay material, clay-like properties. So then you only need a very, very small amount of water, adding into that over a period of 20 minutes, drips in the water, about 1/2 pint. And in order to reduce the stress on the motor, you would just put in just 2 buckets at a time. So I don't know, maybe 60 litres or about 50 kilo, thereabouts. That's one full charge. And that amount of material there is enough, gives you enough working time to do, say, 2 square meters, and then you put the next mix on. I've got 2 square meters of work to do, which takes me probably about just over an hour to get it all flat. It's starting to bind now. Slowly. Need another 15-20 minutes, yeah. And when it does go clay-like, it can put a lot of pressure on the rotor. Sometimes it even stops rotating. So there's a lot of pressure on the motor there. You don't want to put too much material in or you'll break the motor. So that's the material, and the good thing about doing it this way is you don't have to add any artificial fibres or any horsehair whatsoever. That's just the raw product, and that will go on at 1 inch if you want to, in one single coat directly on the brickwork. And provided you put enough pressure on it and babysit it for a few hours, you won't get any cracking whatsoever. No fibres are needed at all. You don't even need 3 layers. Everyone says you need a scratch coat, a mid coat and a top coat. You don't need, you can put it on a 1 layer and it looks beautiful. I'll show you the room now. This has all been lime plastered, just one coat. This is all the work I've done myself. I've got those guide sticks on the wall just to gauge the thickness. Help me gauge the thickness, get the wall straight. There's the material. Got the wall nice and flat. Important to use a midget trowel because it's narrower and you get a lot of pressure on the less effort. You see I've got all the beautiful features directly onto the wood. That's just one coat. This coat was done a few years ago, well, 1 year ago. I might do that. I might keep it as it is, or I might just put a silicon oxide powdered white skim coat on that. We'll see. But there's no cracking. There's no cracking at all. So I've got a little bit more to do. The chimney breast, I'm going to be careful doing a chimney breast. You've got to put the lime milk, heavy diluted plaster on there first to stop the suction. The amount of suction on there is enormous. So the chimney needs special care and attention. Can't just plaster directly onto that. This is a Victorian house. All would have been original lime plaster. It's got lime pointing. But yeah, I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased with the roller pan mixer. I was doing it manually, but the babysitting on that is you've got a spray bottle down there, and you just want to keep feeding it water over a period of 2 or 3 days, every few hours, just to stop it drying out too quick. The suction on the wall is very high, so you've got to use an hose pipe, and you've got to get it onto the wall and get that suction down. It's a good spray for a good 15 minutes, I reckon, is sufficient. But yeah, I'm very pleased with the results. You do want no drafts and no direct sunlight. I'm doing this in October, November, December, providing your house is warm, is good. Doing it in midsummer is not a good idea. So I've got other rooms to do where it'll all get done the same. So yeah, I'm very happy with that. I'll go back to the mixer now, just see if we're getting like a clay material. But you want to do it in small batches because the working time of the plaster is about an hour or so before it gets too difficult to move. I mean, it's difficult to move as it is, but like I said, hammering it on is the best way of doing it by hand, just hammering it on in patches. So it's a great material, I'm very pleased with it. So there's slightly starting to coagulate now. Add a little bit more water into that, only a drop. So a little bit more water. I mean, this roller pan mixer, they're about £3,000 new, but I got one for £100 and I renovated it. Got the motor working again, and I had to grease all the bearings in the centre. It's important that you do that. You need a grease gun to do it. I'm very pleased with the equipment. It's really, probably is worth £3,000. If you're doing a house, probably worth that. But you know, I'm in Worcestershire. If anyone's interested, I can hire it out. It's 16 16 amp plug on him, so just to keep the rain off the power supply. So you need a big, you do need a big transformer. They're quite expensive. So you got to keep painting the equipment, and this is left outside, so you have to keep putting rust inhibitor on the components. I've got it under a shelter. Got it under a shelter there. So yeah, it's just chewed in one day. I reckon you could do about 5 mixes of effort plastering before you get quite tired. So I'll have moved about 10 of those buckets. I've got about 50 of them to move off. So that gives you a rough idea what it is to properly lime plaster a house, requiring no fibres, and simply 500 kilo of quicklime from Shapp quarry in Cumbria will get you roughly about 3 tons of plaster. That cost me about £500, £600 for all that plaster. It's only sand, riverbed sand, but Cardewmires is key to it. It's a brilliant sand, right size distribution, makes a good strong bond, and £600 for 6 ton of plaster is a steal, an absolute steal of a bargain. It would cost you maybe another zero on the end of that if you wanted to buy gypsum crap plaster, which will cause damp. This prevents any dampness, this plaster, and it's antiseptic, antifungal, and it's an air conditioner. I mean, the amount of money you would pay for an expert, say, quote unquote, to do an house will be enormous. So you might as well just do it yourself. And I've just shown you the basic framework of how you would organise your project if you wanted to do it yourself, cheaply, costing almost 0 pennies.